Stories never heard before. Beyond the ache. There was once a boy, who lived in a house that faced the railway tracks, not close enough to shake the walls, but near enough that the sound of passing trains became part of his breath. His name was Ashish, though few called him by it. Most referred to him as, the quiet one, the delicate one, or simply, that boy. The house was old, with a tin roof that echoed the rain like a drum. Inside, the rooms were dim, not because of neglect, but because the family had learned to live without asking for brightness. Ashish's room was the smallest, just enough for a bed, a desk, and a window that opened to a patch of sky. From the age of 7, Ashish began to feel a strange ache, not in one place, but everywhere. His legs felt heavy, his chest tight, his stomach often twisted. He had fevers that came without warning and left without explanation. His voice was soft, and his laughter rare. His parents tried everything, doctors, home remedies, and prayers whispered into the night. But the pain remained, like a visitor who refused to leave. He didn't speak of it much. He didn't know how to. Instead, he began to observe. He watched how the light moved across the floor. He noticed how the train sounded different, depending on the time of day. He listened to the way his mother sighed, when she thought nobody was watching. At school, he was present but invisible. He answered questions when asked, but never volunteered. His handwriting was neat, but his hands trembled. He scored well, but never celebrated. Teachers marked him as sensitive, introverted, needs encouragement. Nobody asked why his eyes looked like they had already seen too much. One day, while waiting for the train to pass, Ashish found a torn page near the tracks. It had no title, just a line written in faded ink, "Some storms arrive quietly." He folded it and kept it in his pocket. That night, he placed it under his pillow. It became his first ritual. He began collecting lines from old newspapers, scribbles from discarded notebooks, and overheard sentences. He didn't know why. He just felt they mattered. He called them echoes. At home, he started writing his own. Not stories. Not poems. Just lines. My body is a room with no switches. I feel like a whisper trapped in a shout. I want to be seen, but only gently. He kept them in a cloth-bound notebook, hidden behind a loose brick in the wall. He didn't write to be read. He wrote to remain. His health continued to falter. He missed school often. But when he attended, something shifted. He began to notice patterns, not in textbooks, but in people. He saw how some students laughed too loudly, as if hiding something. How others never met his eyes. He began to understand that pain had many disguises. He created a chart, not for doctors, not for teachers, but, just for himself. Headache, too many thoughts unspoken. Stomach pain, fear of confrontation. Fatigue, pretending to be okay for too long. He didn't share it. He just followed it. One evening, his grandmother gave him a small brass lamp. Light it every morning, she said. Not for gods. For yourself. He did. Slowly, the ritual became a rhythm. The flame flickered. His breath steadied. The pain didn't vanish, but it softened. It began to speak. He started doing better in studies, not through long hours, but through clarity. He remembered what he read. He connected ideas. He asked questions that made teachers pause. One day, during a history class, the teacher asked, "What is freedom?" Ashish said, "When you stop hiding your truth." The class fell silent. The teacher nodded. At home, he began helping his younger sister with her homework. He didn't explain. He asked her what she noticed. She began scoring better. She also began writing. He found an old radio in the storeroom. It didn't work. But he liked the way it looked, dusty, dented, dignified. He placed it on his desk and whispered, "You still carry sound." That became his second ritual. Every time he felt pain, he'd find something broken and speak to it. "You still carry light," he told a cracked mirror. "You still carry warmth," he told a torn shawl. "You still carry rhythm," he told a rusted bell. He didn't try to fix himself. He tried to understand himself. At 15, he wrote an essay titled, "The Language of My Body." It won a state-level competition. The judges said it was raw, honest, unusual. He didn't attend the award ceremony. He didn't like crowds. But he kept writing. He created a small corner in his room. A lamp. A notebook. A mirror. Not for vanity. For reflection. Every evening, he'd write one sentence about his body. "My legs feel tired, but not weak. My eyes want to close, but not escape. My heart is learning to trust me." He called it, the ritual of listening. At 17, his health improved. Not dramatically. But steadily. He could walk longer. Breathe deeper. Laugh more. He topped his school in literature. Not because he studied the most, but because he understood the silence between words. He was offered a scholarship to a college in the city. His parents hesitated. But, he decided. In the city, he lived simply. He studied philosophy and physics. He wrote essays that professors remembered. He walked slowly, but he walked far. He started a small group called, the Listening Circle. It wasn't a club. It wasn't therapy. It was just a space, where people came, and shared one sentence each. No replies. No advice. Just presence. "I miss my brother. I don't know why I cry at night. I feel invisible." Ashish would nod. Instead of collecting objects or gestures, Ashish began tending to a small patch of earth, behind the school. It wasn't a garden yet, just a neglected corner, with dry soil and a few stubborn weeds. But he cleared it gently, with his hands. He called it, the listening ground. He didn't plant flowers. He planted seeds from fruits the students brought. Guava, custard apple, papaya. Each time someone shared something difficult in the listening circle, he'd ask them to press a seed into the soil. No names. No markers. Just intention. One day, a boy who had never spoken more than a sentence, brought a mango seed wrapped in a leaf. He didn't say anything. He just placed it in Ashish's hand, and pointed to the earth. He nodded and dug a small hollow. Together, they pressed it in. Another day, a girl who often sat with clenched fists, brought a handful of coriander seeds. "They're small," she said. "But they smell like my grandmother's kitchen." Ashish smiled. "That's enough." Over time, the patch began to change. Shoots appeared. Leaves unfurled. The students began calling it, the quiet orchard. They didn't pick the fruits. They just sat near them. Sometimes in silence. Sometimes in laughter. Sometimes in tears. Ashish never claimed it as his. He just watered it. He just listened. He began writing short reflections, not in a notebook, but on stones. Smooth flat ones he found, near the railway tracks. He placed them at the base of each plant. This tree grew from a moment of courage. This one remembers a voice that trembled. This one carries the scent of home. He didn't explain the stones to anyone. But the students began to read them. Some added their own. Some just sat beside them. Years later, when Ashish had gray in his hair and slower steps, the orchard remained. Not large. Not wild. Just, steady. A place where things once buried had grown. He never called it healing. He called it tending. And when people asked what he had built, he said, nothing. I just gave pain a place to root. He never published a book. He never gave a speech. But people remembered him. Not for what he overcame, but for what he honored. Not for being cured, but for being whole. And when he grew old, he still kept the radio. It still didn't work. But every morning, he'd sit beside it, breathe with the wind, and whisper, "You still carry sound." He didn't leave behind a monument. He left behind a rhythm. A way of listening. A way of staying. A way of being, gentle, attentive, and quietly brave. He had shown how to live. And, he had also shown, how one could go, beyond the ache.